On YouTube, watch time is everything, even more than your number of subscribers and the overall number of views you have. The minutes that people are actually watching your content and keeping people on the platform is the thing that YouTube is going to reward you for by pushing your content out to more people. And end screens are a really great way to keep people engaged with your content and keep people on the platform. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create these kind of awesome animated end screens for your own channel or for your clients' channels if you're a freelancer. And at the end, I'm also going to be showing you and giving you free templates that you can take and customize so you don't have to be starting from scratch. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you get notified every single time a new video goes live. Now let's get into it. When it comes to end screens, you can use really simple ones like this one from Marie Forleo, which is not really animated outside of her logo. Just a simple kind of background to give it a little bit more of a dynamic feel, and then she puts music over this and puts her videos and her kind of channel icon here inside of YouTube Studio. So it can be as simple as that, or you can get a little bit more complicated with it, which is what we're going to be doing today. Here's how it kind of looks on my YouTube channel, and this is the template we're going to be designing inside of Canva today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a screenshot of this because that's how I start by designing almost anything, by creating a bit of an inspiration mood board inside of Canva that I can then draw ideas from when I'm designing. So jumping straight into Canva, you want to make sure you are designing inside of the YouTube thumbnail template. They don't have YouTube end screens as of yet, but the YouTube thumbnail template design is the right dimensions because that is the dimensions for YouTube. So we can design it inside of here, but we will have to take a little bit of inspiration from YouTube itself because we don't have the designs inside of Canva yet at this stage. So I'm going to go ahead and just name this end screens, so I know what's going on inside of my Canva account when I'm searching for my designs. And I'm going to go ahead and get started by putting my screenshot straight in here. So this is how I like to start. I would maybe actually include several screenshots of different kinds of YouTube end screens and add them to the first few pages of my design. So as I'm designing, I can then kind of refer to them and have a look at how they've done it and pull ideas from it into my own design. But in this case, I've actually just created a template for you that you can use to make sure you're designing for the optimal dimensions and everything is exactly where it needs to be in order to create your beautiful end screens inside of YouTube Studio. So you could either drop this template in, which has the text on it. This will tell you this is the size of the subscribe icon because that is one thing that you cannot resize inside of YouTube Studio. You can resize these video clips or playlist clips that you're going to be putting inside there, but you cannot resize this YouTube icon. So keep that in mind when you're designing. And everything else is safe inside of this orange area on the template. So I am actually going to be using the blank template of this just to make it a little bit less distracting. I'm going to place that on my design and stretch it all the way out, and I'm going to lock this to make sure it doesn't move, and anything I place on top of this can then be adjusted for transparency to make sure I'm always designing for my main elements to be included in this area. But I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that as we're going through. So the first thing I want to place is my actual channel icon here to make sure that that is going to be in the right place. I'm going to head on over to elements, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a circular frame so I can drop any photo in here and it's going to crop it into a nice circle for me. So I want to make sure I have the right dimensions. There we are. Always to be a little bit better to be a little bit smaller than bigger. And I'm going to drop that right in. All right, so I know that this is the size of my channel icon and that does not move. That cannot be resized inside of YouTube Studio. The other thing that I want to grab is some placeholders for my YouTube thumbnails to make sure that the design of the outside elements is in the right dimensions, because the YouTube thumbnails are in a bit of an awkward shape. It's not a square or a circle, which is a little bit easier. It's kind of quite rectangular and it can be a bit tricky. So I always like putting YouTube thumbnails of my actual YouTube videos inside of these designs as placeholders so I can see exactly what it's going to look like when it's inside of my videos. And it also makes it really easy to align so I can see exactly how much room I would have for videos inside of here if they were going to be on top of each other like these two are over here. You can go maybe a little bit bigger. That looks good. And now I'm going to be placing some design elements on the outside of these. So I'm going to go ahead back on over to elements, grab some shapes. I'm going to make sure that these are going to be darker than this background color over here, so it's not too distracting. Maybe choose the same color, but then go a little bit darker with it here. And this element that I'm grabbing at this stage can be a little bit outside of the frame because that's not going to affect what happens inside of YouTube Studio, so that's fine. But I want to make sure that it's going to look beautiful when the video is actually placed on top of it inside of YouTube Studio. So I want to make sure the dimensions are how I want them. Now keep in mind, you are going to be eyeballing it inside of YouTube Studio, so you're going to be placing these in manually, so they're never going to be quite perfect. So you can see that this one that I placed inside of the video has quite a narrow edge on the bottom and then quite a fat edge here on the left side, but it's mainly just to give you a bit of an idea of where you want these. So I'm happy with the way that that looks. I'm going to copy and paste that and use it for my second element over here and position that just behind it. Now I would maybe want the gap between them to be a little bit bigger just to make it a little bit more pronounced. That looks pretty good. And now I can go ahead and start placing in my actual background elements because I know that these are going to be in the right spot for me. And this one I can move around now because I know exactly what size it is. So I'm going to put it just to the edge here. So I know that that is the highest and the most left that it can go, and it can keep going towards the middle of this orange area, but not outside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and choose another colored block. Move that back. This is going to be my blue block here. And that's going to go to the back. And I can see the top here. This is kind of roughly where I want it. And I'm going to choose another element that has a bit of an outline for my orange block. Perfect. And now I can stretch that out. And again, using my top design here as a bit of a guideline. That's going to go backwards. All right. So now I can start adding in my other elements, including this frame for my actual video that's going to keep playing as this end screen is. All right. So I want to make sure that I'm adjusting the transparency here so I can see where the frame is going to be. Again, this doesn't matter so much for this video because it's not actually restricted to these boundaries, but it's mainly for the design of it so it all looks nice and flows pretty nicely as well. So I don't want to make it go too far down or too far over to the left because I want it to still look nice and aligned with these other videos over here. Make that a little bit bigger just so it's kind of also centered within the orange element here. And I'm also going to place a kind of a dummy placeholder of a screenshot of me talking on top of that. Once again, this is just to make sure that I've got the dimensions correct because of these awkward rectangle shapes. So you can see that I've already screwed it up a little bit, so I can keep going up, but it does mean that I will just have to adjust a little bit. Well, that's pretty good actually. So I'm happy with the way that that's turning out. I'm going to go ahead and adjust my transparency back. I'm going to change the color of this so it's not that hideous sort of blue. Okay, that's looking good. Now let's drop some text in to get those nice calls to action that are often missing from end screens that are not designed professionally. And they're not given that kind of loving care that you're going to be giving your end screens, and kind of really prompting people to take the actions you want them to take. All right, so watch next. And I'm just gonna make this bigger and also align my top and bottom widths here. A little bit too big. Yep, that's about right. And I also want to adjust the line height so it's not quite so far away from each other. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to put that over here, and now I'm going to grab my arrows and my subscribe icon as well. So I'm going to head on over to elements. I'm going to put in the word sticker and arrow. The sticker part of that phrase means that it's going to pull up a lot of these kind of moving elements for me, which is awesome. You don't want to be overusing the moving elements. I have a tendency to do this. I get overly excited by all these amazing animations inside of softwares like Canva, and then I just end up with way too many distracting elements on one design. So you do want to be quite careful with the amount of graphics you're using that are moving, because you don't want to be distracting your viewers from feeling like they have too many options for the kind of calls to action you want them to take. But just using a couple can be a really good way of prompting them to do the thing that you are looking for them to do. So again, going up to our reference example here. All right, so those arrows are a little bit smaller. I'm going to go ahead and lock this so that I can select. That's not going to work. It's all right. I'll just make them smaller, so they're not too distracting. Obviously, past Maggie has already thought of this. And I also want to grab an arrow for my subscribe element on the left-hand side. And let's go ahead and give that a bit of a twist to make sure it's pointing in the right direction. And again, that's going to be a little bit smaller. It's going to be roughly around here. And I'm also going to have a subscribe sticker. So lots to choose from, and do bear in mind that I am on the Pro plan of Canva, but all of the elements that I'm using here today are completely free for you to use. So I've specifically chosen ones that are available on the free and paid plans, so you don't necessarily have to upgrade your account in order to use these animated graphics, which is awesome. And the last thing I want to do is grab a frame. So that's going to be this last kind of moving element that I've got around my channel art that makes it really nice and kind of prominent in people's minds. There's lots of colorful ones here, and I would avoid using color on color. Whenever possible, either use a white or kind of grayscale background and then colorful elements on top of it, or the other way around. Don't try to use color on color, never really ends well in the design world. So again, this element can be outside of the frame, but this channel icon cannot. So I'm going to put this in the back, and we're going to just adjust the transparency here to make sure I'm not moving outside of the frame. Okay, so I'm going to move this down, and we're going to move this guy right here. So if I want more of these dots to be showing behind my channel icon, I can just move it, and this is going to move down a little bit. So I can use it to snap it into place to make sure it's in the center. Again, this is going to be a little bit less precise inside of YouTube Studio because you're going to be eyeballing it, but that's looking pretty good, very close to what I've got going on up here. The one last thing is that I've got a bit of a speckled patterned background on this side of things, so I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And it is blue currently, so you're not going to be able to see it until I change the color. And now we can change it to white. And we're going to position that all the way to the back and a little bit forwards, so it's just on top of the blue. And now I'm just going to align that with the blue background. Cool. All right, so I'm happy with the way that that's turning out. I know everything is within the frame, and now I'm going to go ahead and copy this and remove these elements because I don't actually want them to be there. They're just placeholders. So I don't need any of this there. I don't need this, and I don't want that. And I just want this template that I'm going to then use now inside of iMovie, so I can show you how to add this clip here, and then we're going to pop it inside of YouTube Studio so I can show you how to add your last little elements inside of YouTube. So you want to make sure you're downloading this as a video, and you're only downloading the page that you want, it's going to download it as a 6-second clip, but that's okay because we're just going to copy and paste it to get the 20 seconds of your end screens that you want. All right, so here we are inside of iMovie, but you can replicate this in any other video editing software that you're using. I use Final Cut Pro, but you can also use this in Premiere Pro or anything else that you're using. iMovie is just the simplest to demonstrate. So you just drop in your clip. So this is a 5.8-second clip. I want this to be a maximum of 20 seconds because that is the maximum length of your end screens. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste. And this is the only kind of slightly more difficult thing about using animated elements, is that if this was a static image, you can just make it 20 seconds and you're done. With animated elements, you want to make sure that they look quite natural in how they are moving in terms of where their positioning is. So it's not so much an issue with this because it just keeps on turning, but this arrow and then these arrows as well have to be lined up a little bit. So what you want to do is you want to get to a point where they're kind of in a natural transition and kind of around here, let's say. So at this point of the clip, the arrows are down. So I want to make sure that I kind of get to the same point here, and I'm just gonna delete this bit. Now that should be relatively flawless. Yeah, okay, so now you can't really tell that it's kind of, not a lot of people would notice it, to be honest. If you don't want to bother with doing that part of aligning this up, not a lot of people would really notice that tiny little bit of a glitch. I'm just a bit of a perfectionist, so I like to line it up by using these arrows or this arrow and making sure that their movements are aligned with these clips as they're kind of moving through. So now that that's done, you know that this beginning is aligned with this end, which is the same as this one. So now you can just use this clip and copy and paste it and make sure you get around 20 seconds worth. Of course, it has to make sense with what you're saying here. So if you're not saying 20 seconds worth of content that's going to be relevant to end screens, then make it shorter. Just know that you cannot make it longer. So this is around 20 seconds. It's a little bit over perhaps by a couple of seconds. I'm just going to make that a little bit shorter just to be safe. Now what you want to do with your clip is you want to make sure you're detaching the audio to make sure that you can place that just underneath, and grab this, and I'm just going to place that right above my end screen here. This is also how you can make sure that it's 20 seconds. So you can see this says 22.6 seconds. This is 22 seconds here. So I want to make sure that it's 20 seconds. Of course, now I'm clipping it, so you want to make sure it is actually the exact content that you want in there. But now we know we got 19 seconds, so we're well within the boundaries. And I want to select this area over here and put it in as picture in picture to make sure that I can place it where I want it. And that looks good. You did a very good job designing that. So that looks great. And now if I was going to play that, it does have a bit of a fade in. Dangers of iMovie, I suppose. So you want to make sure it appears straight away. And the sound would be just underneath that. And then the other elements are going to go straight inside of YouTube Studio. So that is how you would add it to your video. Of course, your video would be over here, and this would just be the last 20 seconds. So let's jump into YouTube Studio and add our last few elements. So I'm going to be doing this on a live video that I've already got published, just to kind of show you how this is done. So you want to head on over to where you're editing your video, going over to end screen on the right hand side. So you'll see I didn't actually use my full 20 seconds for my end screens. This is the maximum you can use. So the gray line here is the 20-second countdown, but you can do less than that because what I was saying in the video was less than 20 seconds. So I didn't actually want it to be the full 20 seconds, but then you can hit play and it'll show you where your kind of end screens pop up. And this is where you can kind of place your elements. So you can place your subscribe icon over here. You can see that this is not something you can resize, but these videos that I've placed here, oh, now I've got that a little bit misaligned. Again, like I said before, it's not a perfect science. And with the videos, if I was going to grab these, I can actually resize these. So these can be as big as you really want them. And you can also just have one video in there if you want. You want to make sure you're actually on the end screen template so you can see how you're aligning these. In terms of deciding what videos to place here, you can choose just most recent upload. So forever, for as long as you've got YouTube, this video will keep changing. So all of your videos will keep advertising whatever your latest video is. Or you can choose best for viewers, so YouTube will then select whichever video is most compatible with the topic of the current video. Or you can even choose a playlist or something like that that's a little bit more dynamic and again will increase your watch time. So those are all the different things that you can choose here, but just so you know exactly what it'll look like once your beautiful template is inside of YouTube Studio, and then all you need to do is hit save and it'll be live and ready to go on your video. And now if you would like to easily design your own end screens, I have also created a template for you that you can use inside of your own Canva account and customize to your own brand and your own needs. But it's just something to get you started so you're not starting from scratch within Canva. So you'll have the design that we created today and also one other that is going to give you some inspiration for what you can do with your own end screens. And also every single time you'll add a new page into this design, you're going to have this template already preset in there, so you'll know exactly what you're working off of and you're going to be able to see exactly where your elements need to be inside of and how big your icon's going to be. So check the link in the description of the video for your access to my template. You'll eventually come to a page like this that is going to allow you to just click on use this template, and it's going to make a copy of that inside of your own Canva account. If you don't have a Canva account already, it's just going to prompt you to create one and you'll be ready to go. Oh hey, it's the end screens we designed in this video. How cool is that? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the tutorial, and if you did, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you get notified every time a new video goes live. Thanks again so much for being here, and keep creating the life you love.